Thank you very much, Councillor Fletcher. Spoken very well as a Director for Transport. Right, Councillor Denise, your turn now.
It is my turn now. Thank you, Mr Mayor. I signalled my concern at this targeted transport levy last week when you tabled your initial final proposal. There is definite raw impact on residents with this suggestion. We have to do our best by Auckland, and that's always the genre in which we talk around this table, but we have to do our best by Aucklanders, those that will pay the targeted rate. So like anyone, I'm looking for solutions, and Councillor Fletcher has rightly pointed out that we do need to do something, but we did not go out to the public on this in a clear manner.
That's right.
The Independent Advisory Group worked for 2 to 3 years on coming up with what is essentially two options. And we have been told over the past week or so that the public, well in fact more than a week, for the past several weeks, that the public are heavily favouring the toll option. But what we're suggesting here is more closest to the rates increase fuel tax other option that we're saying or intimating has been rejected by the public. So we're suggesting something that we're saying of the two options we went out to the public with is the one least favoured, and now we're going in an interim way to go for the least favoured option. We also often talk amongst ourselves about having courage and having courage in big decisions such as this. But I would contend that courage is from finding interim resources from within. Procurement, staffing, contract staffing, programs, better business cases for what we do. Instead here, we've got a surprise clause for ratepayers amidst a very high revaluation climate, and that particular point I wish to underscore. I realise that we often talk about, well, in the next revaluation cycle it might not be that, but it might still yet be that. So continuous high revaluations. We do not know how long this climate will last. Not all ratepayers read the Herald. I bet the Herald wishes they do. So they might not have been tipped off for what is being suggested here in terms of raw impact, and will not necessarily know that coming impact on their rates bill come July. And I'd contend that retirement home unit owners certainly wouldn't understand what could be coming under this suggestion. The very last point in the Mayor's proposal that we've got and that we're going through today is to direct and encourage staff to come back with some proposals around rate postponements options. There's a signal here, and we've been talking about that. Staff need to find more rates postponement options. There's a signal here that some people are going to be in pain. And I'll finish with noting that $2 million of this targeted transport levy, $2 million of it will come from those who already get support from us by way of a rates rebate or a rates remission. They're already getting support from us, they need support from us, yet $2 million we're going to be asking to come from them for this levy. So it is with regret that in a transparent and open manner I cannot support this targeted transport rate.
Okay, Councillor Arthur.
Thank you, Your Worship. I don't want to go and repeat what's been said. We've all been well aware of the problems that we've got, and we've tried to find solutions. But my concern is that some reporters out there are saying all sorts of things which are confusing the public, and one this morning saying we should all be sacked by government. And so I think this is an opportunity for you, who's been at the coalface with government on the discussions, to tell the people of Auckland this morning why we've been forced to go down this track and haven't listened to what they've told us that they wanted tolls. So I'd like you to do that, because I think it's important the public know exactly why we've gone down this track and why they think we didn't listen to what they told us. And as you've had the discussion with the government, I think it's an opportunity, and I'd like to ask if you would. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Arthur. Councillor John Watson.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I kind of feel we're in a rather unfortunate position we really find ourselves in today. No one can doubt the desire of Aucklanders to get on and have something done about the transport network. And Mr Mayor, I don't think anyone could really question your desire to get things moving. I don't think that's really in any doubt. But it is unfortunate because really to advance this particular option of the transport levy that's before us, we really have to kind of suspend reality a little bit. We have to pretend that we genuinely consulted on this option, and then we have to further pretend that even if we did consult on this option, it's the one that people would have endorsed. I think Councillor Fletcher put up the household summary. This was what we consulted on, and in particular the questionnaire. And within the questionnaire, the most prominent question was question 2B. And if you were at any of the Have You Say events or any of the community gatherings, this was the one that people inevitably focused on. There's no mention of a transport levy or a targeted rate there. As it was, this questionnaire, even as it stood, I mean, there were doubts about even the way, if we're talking about tolling receiving an endorsement, there were questions raised about that, about the language used. I mean, there was a political scientist, Dr. Bryce Edwards, said, as far as the tolling goes, that the toll riding option is framed more positively than the tax and rate increase and might influence respondents to favour tolls over taxes. This may not have been deliberate, but does appear to be somewhat biased. So even within what we had there, and I'm not going to dwell on that, there are concerns if we're talking about receiving a mandate for one option over another. In respect of the proposed transport levy, the question has to be asked why it wasn't there. We had a pretty clear indication from the government that they weren't interested. So if that was the case, why was it not clearly there as a third little box? And if we followed the example of the fuel tax increase, how do you think a question like this would have gone in terms of endorsement? Would you support a transport levy set at $99 for non-business ratepayers and $159 for business ratepayers brackets, just like happened with the fuel increase? This would amount to an average rates increase of 4% per annum, I'm assuming that's what it is, and it would be on top of the proposed 3.5% overall average rates increase being proposed. I would suggest to you that that wouldn't have been an option that people would have gone to. But as it wasn't there, so we were not going to know, are we? So the real shame is then that the chance to really put this out to Aucklanders in an open, transparent manner was missed. I wish it had happened, because then we would be dealing with real. We wouldn't be playing pretending that we do have a mandate. We don't have. It's sophistry to imply that by getting a response from all those people to wanting the Auckland plan and to expressing amongst some of them a desire for tolling, that somehow translates to an endorsement of what is, after all, another rate increase. If that had been put out there and that had come back, my attitude would have been quite different, but it hasn't. And I have to say, just in closing, Mr Mayor, overriding all of this, which kind of staggers me as someone who's not particularly attached to any of the political circles, is really the attitude of the government. Really, we're dutifully considering this. We've considered tolling, we've considered fuel tax increase, and we have comments of the Minister. And I'm not wishing to berate the Minister or the Council or anyone else, but if that's their attitude, that that they don't think Auckland has a transport plan, we just don't see that in terms of congestion and public transport. If that's their attitude, and I don't think he's using it for political effect, then we've got a problem. If that's the perception with the government of anything we're coming up with, then there's a real disconnect between what we're trying to do and their view of it. We know what our ratepayers are saying. We know what people want. They don't seem to share that. So I don't know where that all sits in the package, but clearly someone needs to talk to them at some point. Thank you.
Yep. Councillor Cathy.
I'm about to swallow my first dead rat of the day and say that I will be supporting the transport levy. But what I'm not supporting is sending the Mayor and the Chief Executive off to government only to negotiate over a motorway network charge. And that's what I'd like to speak to, if I may.
Actually, Councillor, so you could, but remember it's the next resolution. We're going to actually, so this is specifically about the
and then I'll
transport
wait.
levy. Then, good, okay. Right, thank you, Councillor Cathy. Councillor Cal.
Yeah, thank you, Your Worship, and to my colleagues around the table today. Over the last number of years, I've sat around this table, not from the left and not from the right, but to represent the people who elected me in my ward, to represent them across the region, and to do my job as a regional councillor and make some hard decisions. And I suppose, like all of us through life, we have had some hard calls to make on a day-to-day basis. But for me, Mr Mayor, you've spelled it out pretty clearly. If we wait 3 years, what's the congestion going to be on our roads in 3 years' time? We all know people, on average, 8,000 to 9,000 cars, new cars, are getting registered in Auckland monthly. 8,000 to 9,000 cars. Well, one that never supported the CRL, but over 2 years ago did my homework and quoted in the Manukau Courier 2 weeks or 3 weeks ago, saying that the CRL is the be end of all end and will mitigate all the issues on the Southern Motorway, was incorrect. But what it will do was alleviate and take some of the pressure off the Southern Motorway. And what I do hear from my people across the south is that they are asking for alternative means of transport. And yes, Mr Mayor, I travel down that motorway daily and you give me heaps on, but it's my choice to do that.
Train with me?
It's my choice to do that. And for one that sits around this table and would like to see tolling, for a number of reasons, and Councillor Crum picked up on it, in regards to what implications it's going to have on our retirement villages. And I do have an amendment here, as you know, Your Worship, for that. For our 6,200 homes across the region. But to me, tolling would have been better for them. Because I had an email the other day that 40% of our residents in our retirement villages only go from the retirement village to New World, or the retirement village to the shops. So why should they pay? To me, tolling would be better for them. But I've got parts of my ward saying, well, hey, we don't support tolling.
Just defeated your own argument
No,
there.
not at all, because to me, we've got to get this region moving. The CRL in particular, providing it's clean, quick, and most importantly, safe, then people will use it. I'm struggling with the fact is that if we sit back and wait, what's going to happen in 3 years' time? As we know at the moment, I jump on that motorway at Drury and it's backed up to Ramrama at 10 to 6 in the morning now. It was 6:15 3 months ago. It's now 10 to 6 to Ramrama. And it's all those people that are coming over the Bombay Hills into Auckland, as I've told you before around this table, people, using our infrastructure and not paying for it. Whether they're going out east, or whether they're going out west, or they're going to central, they're using our network. And we need to do something about it. We've heard the government saying they're not on board with tolling, congestion charge or whatever. Well, I'd like to know how we're supposed to move forward. And we know that families across the region are struggling. Struggling to pay their bills, put food on the table. But good God, how long are they going to sit on the motorway for? I can tell you, on an average day, me going south, it's an hour and 45 to Drury. That's one way. And if I don't leave at 20 to 6 in the morning, it's 2 hours to come in the morning. So you equate that to an hourly rate, and in particular for our goods and services trucks, what's that costing them? So pretty much most of it's been said, Your Worship. But I will be supporting this today. For the simple reason is we've got to make some hard calls and get this region moving. And it's not about whether I get voted next time round. We're here to make some hard calls. This is one of them.